Everton 2, Liverpool 2, what a fitting way, in my opinion, to end the very last Merseyside Derby at Goodison Park. And I want to talk about Everton, and in particular, I want to talk about David Moyes, because I thought that he got his game plan absolutely spot on. Because I think we've seen a much better Everton side under David Moyes, both in and out of possession. Out of possession, what I thought they did to really nullify Liverpool worked extremely well. They only had 6 shots in the entire game, which is actually the lowest amount of shots they've had all season, which is joined with PSV. Now, PSV in the Champions League, they're already qualified, already topped the group, so that one you can't really count because it was such a rotated side. But in this one, Liverpool played their best 11 out there, and they were going for the game. They needed to try and win the game to extend the lead ahead of Arsenal, but they didn't, and I think that's because Everton made it so difficult for Liverpool going forward. Now, out of position, it was very much a 4-4-2, um, low to maybe mid block if you want to be really fortunate to them. But really, Everton with Ilman there, Lindstrom back there, they were just blocking the midfield and they were just going, you know what, you're not going to be able to play through us. And the one player that really impacted was that one there, Ryan Gravenberch in that midfield, because in this game, the Liverpool players who had the most touches, and actually these four players had more touches than anyone else of any player on the pitch, were the four Liverpool defenders: Bradley, Kanate, Van Dijk, and Robertson. And Beto and Decore, credit to them, they were just absolutely marshalling Gravenberch, not letting him have any touches of the ball. Going out to Bradley, Bradley would then pass it back to Kanate, Van Dijk would pass it to Robertson, Robertson would hit a dead ball, he would go back to Virgil van Dijk. And in that midfield, Liverpool were not able to play through it. In the game, Ryan Gravenberch only had 34 touches in the entire game. Allison, the goalkeeper, had 33 touches, and that just goes to show you how nullified he was, and the end were coming off as well. And the whole point of that was, fine, if you want to work it down, the wings, maybe with the 1-2, then you can, and then maybe you can try and get to the byline if you want. But if you do, you've got to put the ball into the box to Luis Diaz, who, yeah, I think when we first saw him there against Bayer Leverkusen in that 4-0 win at home in the Champions League, that was a great game for Luis Diaz. Personally, I think Arsenal got his tactics spot on. But I think since then, especially in the last couple of weeks, I think we've really seen the limitations of Luis Diaz there as well. Because when he's kind of playing in that 9.5 false 9 role, he's dropping in deep, linking a play with Salah, Gakpo, Szoboszlai, and he's trying to make runs beyond the centre backs into the penalty area to try and get a shot away. That's great. But when there's no space, when Everton and David Moyes decide to, to be compact, limit the amount of space, and the only real option to try and put a ball into the box, it really nullifies Luis Diaz, and we don't see the best out of him. And so I do wonder if playing Diaz was the right option for Slot to go with. Maybe he should have maybe gone for a Nunes or even a Jota. But I think, that false line position for Luis Diaz, I think it's more of a, it needs to be the right game, and this absolutely was not it. With Branthwaite, Tarkowski, the two midfielders again gone in front of them as well. It was just a bad choice, and I think Everton were right to squeeze the space and not go out there and attack Liverpool. But what they did in possession, I think also showed how well and how confident the side are playing at the moment ever since David Moyes took over, because the first thing they do is they send Mikalenko high and wide and go, do you know what, you get up the pitch, you be more attacking. And what that does is it puts Conor Bradley in an awkward position, because Ilman and Dye can then roam this half space here, and he can go wide if he wants, he can cut inside if he wants, and it makes it really difficult. Beto, obviously the target man up there, Abdoulaye Doucouré, you know what, say what you want about him after the game. I think, a lot of things are probably fair, but he probably shouldn't have done what he did in front of the Liverpool fans. But Everton fans, you probably love him for that. And I love him as a player just because the fact that he works so hard and he's willing to get the knockdowns from Beto. He's also willing to run past him. He's going to be up there as well. Lindstrom keeping the width out on this side. So it's kind of a five of sorts, but they're really quite wide and really stretching the Liverpool back line. Gay and Garner just doing whatever they can just to be nuisances and just get involved in the play. And then Branthwaite, Tarkowski, and O'Brien, who has come into the side, done really well in my opinion. I think that obviously it's not his preferred position, but I think when he is there, he does it well. And I think that, he's actually quicker than you might think. So on the ball, Everton, are willing to get the ball to midfielders of Ghana game, play through a team, but those are willing to kick it long to Beto, let Decore get the knockdowns as well, and they attack like that as well. And I think Liverpool were really pushed back, and they were unable to make anything of it. And I think that you have to give credit to that for Everton and David Moyes. And I want to talk about the goals themselves, because I think a lot of them, both Liverpool and Everton, really well worked. And I don't think this is a foul for Everton, but I'm going to talk about Michael Oliver right at the end, because I want to make sure I cover the football itself first. And this one, when I saw it live, I just thought it's way too easy. It almost felt like, was that it? Was that the goal? Oh, Everton are leading. Because here, Beto makes a run, and I just thought to myself, surely he's offside. He's got to be offside. But then I see the other angle from behind, and I think Conor Bradley is playing everyone on side here because he's so focused about Eleven and Die because he's given him a tough opening few minutes that I think he's getting a little bit distracted. Doesn't keep with the rest of the line, and I think that's something that Ndai has been told to go slightly a couple meters offside just so you can pull everyone on, and most importantly, you can keep Beto on as well. And I think watching it back, what really frustrated me was the fact that Kanate is looking at Garner there, where, Luis Diaz has got him. He's not going to be a problem. Maybe he's trying to see what Garner's instructing to. But then as Better makes his run, Van Dijk is just watching him. And it just seemed like a bit too easy. All of them were switched off. And I think it's really clever because of the fact you probably expected, and even I as a viewer was probably expecting it, Brandon's going to hoof that ball long, put it into the danger area, win those 50-50s, win those knockdowns, and go from there. But the fact that they played on the ground, I think it surprises everyone, including the Liverpool players. And when Beto slots this into the bottom corner, Everton Wanderers was 1-0 up, and almost out of nowhere, even though I think at that moment they were making the game really competitive and they did deserve it. But then they weren't in front for long because Alexis McAllister equalises for Liverpool. And I think you can see just underneath me, I think it's Mikalenko pointing towards Eliminandai saying you have to be out there, you have to be tighter to Mohamed Salah, because as Kanata makes this pass, he is unable to get there, which means that Salah is able to put the ball into the box. But I want to really highlight, and I can't annotate it, but I'm just going to point him out, Alexis McAllister on the edge of the D, the only midfielder there really in that area. Watch as he just peels back as the stills progress. Because as Salah shapes up to try and run at Mikalenko, you can see McAllister is the one, with a lot of authority. He's making a run into that box. It's not just, I'm going to, slowly make my way in. He is going in there with intent and the ball does find him. And as Salah does put the ball into the box, Doucouré is still on the edge of the D there. He hasn't really moved apart from maybe 2 yards. And McAllister is in there, making himself an extra body in that back line. And I think it's this Liverpool midfield and the runners that they have, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, McAllister, they're really going at it and they're really trying to, create extra numbers in the box. And this is the benefit because Liverpool, long after going behind, they find themselves back equal. And unfortunately for a lot of teams who do come up against this Liverpool side, no matter how well you defend, Liverpool will, put balls into the box, will continue to attack, will continue to be a threat, and you need to be switched on at all times. And I think what happens here is, I look at O'Brien, and he's flat-footed. He's really flat-footed. He's just watching the ball. He's watching the play. Going, maybe Tarkovsky's going to clear that. Maybe if he misses, Pickford's going to get there. He doesn't read the danger. But which player does? It's Curtis Jones on the edge of the box there. He's on the move. He's on the run. He realises the ball could fall into that massive empty space in the penalty area. And O'Brien doesn't. And maybe if he's a bit more alert, a bit more aware on his toes, that he could get there ahead of Jones. He doesn't, and Liverpool end up going in front of here, making it 2-1. And it was Mo Salah making it 22 goals and 14 assists for himself in the Premier League this season, already on 36 goal returns, quick maths there, this season. And, he's having an all-time season, and that's why I think Liverpool just have to give him a new contract, because at that moment, do you want the ball to fall to anyone else? Yes, there's maybe an argument, maybe Diogo Jota on the Liverpool side, but I think with the form that Salah's in at the moment, when you need someone to just come up and produce, it's him. And it's always been him, and it has been him this season as well. And I think Liverpool would be a very different team and a much worse team without him. And so Liverpool almost go on to take all 3 points if it wasn't for this Tarkovsky thunderbolt right at the end. And so, I'll be honest, I'm coming to Michael Oliver, I'm coming to him, but I personally don't think this was a foul. And people might be screaming, people might be like, what on earth are you on about? You don't know football, you haven't watched the game. I think for me, what really gives it away is how a player reacts. Here, yes, it does look like, Beto is fouling him, but I think because of the physical nature of the battle that Beto has had with Konate and Van Dijk all game long, that Konate, there's been a precedent, and they know how physical they're going to be in this game. So when Beto initiates contact here, I don't think he thinks it's a foul because of how the game's gone throughout, and the referee has, said this is a foul, this isn't, based on what he has blown and not blown for. So I don't think this is a foul. But I do think that if Mikalenko is hoofing the ball into that box, if you're Liverpool, it is completely unacceptable that the best header of the ball, and clearly one of the best strikers of the ball in this game, is left completely unmarked and making a run towards the back post. Yes, Liverpool should absolutely deal with it. You could even make an argument that Konate is fouled, But for me, they have to do a whole lot better. And how often do you see a team in the 90 plus minute of the game still passing the ball around the back, not getting the ball into the box, not this Everton side, and James Tarkowski with an absolute thunderbolt. Allison can do nothing about it, and he equalizes, making it 2-2. And the scenes are absolutely glorious. For the very last Merseyside derby at Everton, I think this was, arguably a fantastic way for it to end. Now, we need to talk about referee Michael Oliver, because going into a game of football, I generally think that if I know the referee's name, that's not necessarily a good sign, because I usually know the name for a bad reason rather than a good one. If the referee is good, I won't even talk about a referee after a game, and I won't even mention it. I won't even care really about the referee. The whole point is for them to be oblivious and just referee the game. But I think for both Liverpool and Everton, he was bad this game. I think it's difficult because of the fact that it's the very last Merseyside derby. Tensions are high. There's a lot of stake for both of these clubs in terms of top and bottom of the table. So obviously, I don't think he goes out there intentionally trying to be a bad referee. But I do think, though, that a lot of the times I do find myself questioning decisions when it's him. And I'm unsure if it's a bias because of the fact that it's him, and if it's another referee, I don't go into a game looking at the referee. But I just think that in this game, he made a lot of bad decisions. I think you could maybe argue for Everton, there was a Kanate one where he handles the ball in the penalty area, and you go to yourself, I'm pretty sure there was a game against Brighton, maybe against Everton, where Ashley Young does something similar, and that penalty is given. There's one at the other end before Everton scored the second goal where Mohamed Salah goes through clean through and goal, and I'm like, well, that's a foul. He just takes him out, and the referee's right there. I think there are so many instances on both sides, which is why I'm not going to focus on like, oh, Liverpool were robbed or Everton were robbed, because I think he's just a bad referee in general. That's my honest opinion on it. And I think that, you know, on another day, who knows how that game goes. And I think that's the worst thing, because at the end of the day, we should be able to say, right, Everton or Liverpool deserved the point or the 3 points. And I think on the balance of play, I think a draw was a fair result. I think Liverpool do have the quality, and Everton at times were just getting a little bit tired. And I think from Liverpool's perspective, they did not play well enough. The fact that they, I think, got drawn into the situation of the last Merseyside derby, there were more fouls in the game than there were shots. And I think Liverpool were a little bit more conservative than they should have been, partly because of David Moyes and how well this team was set up, but also because I don't think Liverpool were adventurous enough, because I think they were maybe too caught up in the occasion. But then we need to talk about what happened at the end. And I think Abdoulaye Doucouré, when he went up to those Liverpool fans, I think it was from a moment of passion, and that passion maybe went a little bit overboard. Yes, it's, you want to see it, but he for me, he got way too close to those Liverpool fans. He really shouldn't have done that, because I think we can forget, what player safety is a thing. Player safety is a thing, and there's nothing to be gained. Yeah, if he was to do it from a distance, I just have an issue with how close he got. And so Curtis Jones then going over to him, I think the way he handled it was wrong, but I think he did have to, have the back of his own fans. But I think it was right that they both got sent off at the game. I think it was both right, because, it could have been a whole lot worse. We saw Everton fans celebrating and being jubilant and running onto the pitch. Not a problem with that. They absolutely deserve it. The game was an incredible game of football, and you want to see that passion. But on the same extent, what if Liverpool fans ran onto the pitch and, did something to Doucouré? And, I think he got too close. I think it was right that both got sent off. Arne Slot getting sent off as well at the end, and his assistant. I think, obviously, that you cannot be sarcastic to a manager. I would question if it's a red card. I have no idea what they said, Slot and his assistant, but if they deserve to be sent off, then fine. They deserve to be sent off, and I don't think that's the end of the world. I do think, though, that for someone who is a very calm manager, I do think that he's getting a little bit fed up with referees, and that's something that maybe he needs to work on as well. But if you feel like you've been wrong, then yeah, I probably, if I was a Liverpool player or on the bench, I probably would have been annoyed as well if I was in the Liverpool camp. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, Everton, David Moyes did a fantastic job. Celebration at the end, very well deserved. And I think, what a perfect way to end the last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. Liverpool have won the same amount of games as Everton, and I think that, sums it up perfectly. Everything that happened in the end. If you're a Liverpool fan or an Everton fan, you're like, you know, but if you're a neutral fan, then I think, you know what, you absolutely love it. This is what we love to see in the Premier League, and you need a little bit more of it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.